Have you ever noticed small white flowers dotting the landscape during the spring? Chances are they're spring beauties. While they may not be the first wildflowers to bloom in the spring, they do bloom relatively early and are a sure sign that spring has arrived. While individual flowers may not be all that impressive, large masses can be quite a sight to behold. Spring beauties can be found throughout the eastern United States, including Illinois, in various habitats, including woodlands, meadows, yards, and parks. Because they can tolerate degraded habitats better than most of our wildflowers, they are relatively common.
Spring beauty is a member of the purslane family, and it's pretty easy to distinguish here in Illinois. Where it grows, it sprouts from tiny little corms that are in the soil. The leaves and flowers grow to be about 2 to 6 inches tall. A really good way to identify these plants is that the flowers are going to have 5 petals, there's going to be 2 green sepals, and there's going to be 5 stamens, and on top of those stamens there's going to be pink anthers that hold the pollen. The flowers are going to open standing upright facing the sun on warm sunny spring days, but when it is cold or when it is rainy or cloudy outside, the flowers will close and the flowers will then droop pointing towards the ground. Remember these key distinctions when going out to identify spring beauties. 1, look for pink stripes, whether pale or bright, on the petals of the flowers. And 2, you want to make sure that as you flip that flower over, there will be only 2 green sepals underneath.
In the landscape, spring beauty is one of the earliest blooming flowers and provide interest and excitement early in the season. This petite size of the spring beauty means it can be incorporated into landscapes easily. Here we have it paired nicely with violets, which bloom at the same time for a nice contrast of flower colors. If you want spring beauty in your home landscape, you want to find a location that mimics the natural growing environments in which it originates. This is a deciduous woodland. That means we're looking for a location that is relatively shaded, has cool, moist soils, and is high in organic matter. Like all spring ephemerals, it will bloom and it will fade quickly before the growing season gets into full effect. So you can incorporate this into established landscapes where later blooming plants will emerge, but the spring beauty will have done its thing and disappeared.
Now there's 2 ways that we can bring these plants into our yards. We can either purchase the corms, which is the living root system of these plants, or we could buy seed. Now probably the easiest way is going to be purchasing the corms. These are already established living root systems. We can plant these in our yard. However, these are going to be the most expensive option. So if you go with the cheaper option of buying seeds, we also have a few constraints there as well. These seeds have a very short window when we can have them and then get them in the ground. They lose viability immediately as they start drying out. So once you get those seeds, as soon as possible, you want to plant those in the soil. So they can go through 2 types of dormancy. They require both a summer dormancy and a winter dormancy. So warm, wet conditions and cold, wet conditions to initiate germination. So it might be a year before you ever see these seeds germinate. And as these are being perennial wildflowers, they spend a lot of their energy on the root system first. It might be 2 to maybe 3 years before you even see your first bloom if you're planting them from seed. That's why a lot of people, even though it's a bit more expensive, will opt for using corms to plant spring beauties in their own landscape.
In order to acquire spring beauties, we do not want to collect from the wild. We want to make sure that we are acquiring the corms from a reputable nursery where they are propagating plants. They're not wild collecting them. We want to protect what's in the wild while we're incorporating them into our home landscape.
Did you know, in addition to being ejected from their seed capsules, the seeds of spring beauties are also moved by ants. The seeds of spring beauty and other spring wildflowers, such as bloodroot, trot lily, and Dutchman's breeches, contain elaiosomes. These elaiosomes are fleshy structures that are full of fats. Ants will collect the seeds and bring them back to the nest to feed on these elaiosomes. By doing this, they help disperse the seeds further away from the parent plants than they would be able to on their own. Once the ants have eaten the elaiosomes, they will dispose of the seeds in abandoned galleries or in trash piles outside of the nests. By doing this, they provide the seeds with areas that are full of nutrients that will help aid their growth.